You talking about football?
Yeah, Town, NFC North. Then let's talk football.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Headed North, an NFC North podcast, and I am your host, D-Tron. Now, this is, let me check my watch. This is March the 14th, headed into March the 15th, Tuesday into Wednesday, and boy, a lot can happen in a week. This has been an absolute crazy start to the free agency. If the season next year is anything like free agency has been in just the first couple of days, I hope you got your popcorn because it's really going to be a movie. We have got stuff happening with every team here in the NFC North as well as across the league. So without much more talking, I'm going to jump into the topics. I take that back. Little more talking. I want to let you guys know if you want to reach listeners like yourself, people who care about football or things going on in the Midwest, definitely hit us up in the show notes. Let us know how we can help with your advertising needs. Okay, now that plug is out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get into the first topic. And I'm actually going to start with my Lions this week because I don't think I started with them in previous episodes. So if you guys are paying attention, I need you to pour one out for your boy Jamal Williams, because he gone. Not officially, but in free agency, we were hoping that Jamal was going to come back. But the Detroit Lions just signed David Montgomery from the Chicago Bears on like a 3-year, what they said him for, 3-year, $18 million. We're not bringing Jamal back if we did that. Plus, we just re-signed Craig Reynolds, which granted, he's a very small piece to our running back puzzle. But we're not going to pay him and give David Montgomery 3-year, $18 million. I think 12 of that is guaranteed, somewhere in that ballpark, and also be able to bring Jamal back and keep DeAndre Swift. That would just be too many people. So, unfortunately, if you're a big Jamal Williams fan, you should probably start bracing for the fact that he's probably going to end up with Buffalo or Cincy or the Jets or somebody else other than Detroit Lions. And I know Cincy actually sent Samaje Perine out to somebody as well, so they got a need. Again, Buffalo never really had a super strong running game, so I'm sure they could use someone who led the league in touchdowns. So starting the episode on a bad note, or on a sad note, I guess, Jamal is probably going peace. What else we got? Free agency has been pretty good to Detroit, so one of the areas that I talked about, I'm sure most people who talk about the Detroit Lions have been harping on, is the need for defensive secondary. And with that being said, the Lions went and got 2 cornerbacks in free agency. So they went and picked up Cam Sutton from the Steelers. They got him on a 3-year, $33 million deal, with 21 of that is guaranteed. Ooh, that's a payday, baby. And Cam has been solid as a D-back for the Steelers. So I think that is a great pickup. And then we also went and got on a 1-year deal, Emmanuel, where's he at? Emmanuel Mosley from the 49ers. So the Lions are focused on the areas that they need to improve on, which is so refreshing as a Lions fan to see them go out and address areas with deficiencies. Like, you see a problem, you fix a problem. So, got to give it up to Dan Campbell and the head office in Detroit for really going after the areas that we need. Also in free agency, the Lions shored up several of the people that were sort of in limbo, including Isaiah Buggs got signed to a pretty big deal. They're bringing back Frank Kaminsky. I mentioned Craig Reynolds already, signed a pair of our tight ends, Brock Wright and Zylstra. But also, we brought back Alex Anzalone, which I thought we were going to replace him. He was solid last year, but I thought that there would be more talent out in the free agency market than what we were getting production-wise from Anzalone. I'm not mad at them re-signing him. Certainly did the job last year as a captain and the year before, these 1-year deals, and has sort of earned his way to a longer-term deal. I think they got him for 3 years. But just definitely thought that we would shop more for a stud in the middle. But hey, man, as long as he's producing, that's really all that I care about. I don't know about you guys, but I thought that we'd probably make some kind of change from linebacker. You know, it is what it is. But the Lions have been active, but I wouldn't say that they would be the winners of the free agency out of the North. I'm definitely going to give that winning edge to the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears have been making a splash. It seems like so long ago that they traded away that first overall pick. And that was just last week. They traded the first overall draft pick to the Panthers. Now, if you follow football, you already know that. And they got DJ Moore in the deal. They also got the Panthers' first-round draft pick and second-round draft pick from this year, a first-round draft pick from 2024, and then a second-round draft pick from 2025. The Chicago Bears clearly won that deal. What were the Panthers thinking giving away DJ Moore in that deal? Now, I'm sure Chicago was like, we need somebody, and we're not taking a wide receiver too. So DJ Moore had to come along, but also the draft pick. So now the Bears have some real building blocks for their future. Plus, they got a bunch of money, or they had a bunch of money before they went out and started signing people like crazy. The Chicago Bears went and got TJ Edwards from Philly, and that was on $19.5 million for 3 years, 12 of that guaranteed. They went and got Tremaine Edmonds from Buffalo, which, I mean, he was probably the second best linebacker they got behind Matt Milano, but they got him on a 4-year, $72 million deal with $50 million guaranteed. Whew, Chicago Bears out here throwing cash. Well, they went and got DeMarcus Walker. He was an edge from Tennessee Titans, put him on a 3-year deal. So Chicago Bears have been making big moves. They went and got a big receiver. I mean, I was reading somewhere on the internet, I think I might have been on the gram, and they said that what DJ Moore has put up yards in his career so far would make him the leading receiver in Chicago Bears history. The kid's 25. How is that possible? I mean, you've had decent receivers there like Brandon Marshall. I don't even know who. Hey, let me know in the comments if you guys know who the Chicago Bears leading receiver is for the franchise, because I don't know, and how many yards they put up. But I'll tell you this, DJ Moore is certainly an upgrade and a true number one. I don't think Mooney or Claypool were ever going to be the number one in that offense. So adding a true number one will actually enhance what Claypool and Mooney can do for the Chicago Bears, and it gives weapons. If Chicago can go out and get a tailback, maybe even using that 9th overall pick to get someone like, I think it's Bijan Robinson, they could be a real force in the North. With the crumbling of the Vikings and the Packers, the Lions and them could be fighting out for who could win this division if they keep putting together these pieces. I'm not saying that Chicago's got it fixed, because clearly their record last year does not indicate that they're going to be amazing next year. But they're putting together pieces, and that leadership there in Chicago is doing a great job so far getting this free agency kicked off. Speaking of people who aren't doing such a great job so far, would be the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know what's in the water in Minnesota right now, but everybody wants to go. Minnesota's got rid of Thielen, had to cut him, had to get some cap space. Eric Kendricks is gone. He's already signed actually with the Chargers. Patrick Peterson, he out of here. He went and signed with the Steelers. Cam Dantzler is now with Washington. Everybody gone. Everybody leaving. They're talking about shopping Cook out of the backfield. Who are they going to have left? Like, what are they going to do? It's going to just be Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson throwing the ball back and forth to each other. And honestly, I don't know how long-term Kurt is going to be. If you've listened to any of the other episodes, you already know I'm on a tangent about getting Kirk Cousins out of here and potentially getting Lamar Jackson in Minnesota or somebody else. But seriously, they have not reached a long-term deal for Kurt. So next year, he could be testing the free agency market. Now, I don't know what he's going to bring. Clearly, no one knows what he's going to bring. But with some of the contracts that have taken place for quarterbacks already this offseason, you can see Kirk Cousins trying to get somewhere in the mid-30s for the production that he's put up, average or not. I feel like he is going to warrant some cash. And I don't think that Minnesota is looking to give him a long-term deal because, again, look at the production that they've got from him. So there is some question marks in who and what kind of product they can put together in Minnesota. And it's crazy. All of these individuals are taken off out of Minnesota, and they won the division last year. They won like 13 games last year. How do you not convince people to stay? Granted, I understand there's some cuts because of cap space, so there's going to be some casualties for sure. But I think Zadarius Smith also said he wanted to get out of there. This is a person who you have on a deal, who you're already paying, who doesn't want to be there. He wants to be allowed to go and shop himself to other teams. That's not a good sign, guys. So I don't know what's happening there in Minnesota, but they have not been a winning organization in the first few days of free agency. But it's a long offseason. There's tons of time for Minnesota to get it together, maybe make a larger pickup somewhere. I mean, two people that they kept, they got Nick Mullins. So if Kirk don't stay, Nick Mullins will be there. Huh? Minnesota? Y'all on the Nick Mullins train? And then they also went and picked up Marcus Davenport, but that's a 1 year, $13 million deal from the Saints. So Minnesota has been fairly quiet in this opening for free agency, and hopefully they're just sitting back, watching the landscape, trying to figure out how they could not overpay, keep their salary caps low. But it don't look good so far, especially with the moves that the Detroit Lions have made and then the Chicago Bears have made. All right. Now we're moving on to the Packers. And the Young and the Rodger-less soap opera continues. Now, probably by the time you hear this episode, again, we're recording Tuesday the 14th going into Wednesday the 15th. Aaron Rodgers will probably have already gone on the Pat McAfee show and told you guys that he's going to the Jets. As a matter of fact, it's almost a done deal because Aaron Rodgers has already given the Jets his wish list for people that he wants them to go and get before he signs, which really feels weird. I mean, I know I'm all for players having control over what they do, similar to in basketball when you get LeBron James sort of orchestrating the things that he wants to happen. When you're a great player, you got that ability because you could change the fate of an organization. But again, I'm over Aaron Rodgers in this. Just tell us that you're going to the Jets and tell us that you're going to meet back up with your people because he already got Alan Lazard a new 4-year, $44 million contract. Let's see. Is it 44 mil? Yeah, I think it's $44 million or 4 years and a bunch of money from the Jets. He wanted Lazard. He wanted his guy Randall Cobb. He told him he wanted Mercedes Lewis. And he also wanted OBJ. We don't even know if OBJ is going to be good. I saw the videotape. Guys don't have to tell me about it. Yeah, he looked good working out with no one in front of him, but he hasn't played in nearly a year. So I'm not on the OBJ hype train, but if you get that piece to go along with Aaron Rodgers and someone he trusts in Alan Lazard, and then you already got a really solid defense in the Jets, man, you guys better watch out in New York because the Jets might be coming for you. I don't want to hear any more about it, though, Aaron. Just go. Just get out of here. It's okay. We'll take care of the North for you. You just skedaddle. It'll be all good. Also happening in Green Bay is nothing. Nothing else is happening in Green Bay. Everything is at a standstill until Aaron Rodgers figures out what he's going to do and when he's going to do it. And once that happens, I think the Jordan Love era will start, and they can start really figuring out what pieces that they have available to them. Because right now, Aaron is trying to start a mutiny with all of these veteran players to get them out of Green Bay and come join him in New York for greener pastures. The grass ain't always greener, Aaron, especially when you're leaving a place literally with green in its title. Just saying. All right, so we've gotten through the Lions, the Bears, the Vikings, and the Green Bay Packers. There's been a lot of action in the North. But there's been probably just as much action in the rest of the league. So I'm going to run you across the rest of the league. We're going to head north, south, east, west real quick and touch on some folks that were big name moves happening in these first few days of the free agency. But before that, again, I mentioned it at the top of the show. Want to mention it again. If you want to get your product, your content, your message out to listeners like yourself, individuals who really enjoy football and love the Midwest, make sure to hit us up in our show notes, send us an email, and let us know how we can help with your advertising needs. All right, let's hit it around the league. So first, we're headed to Miami, where they have ended Ramsey Gate. They have signed Jalen Ramsey for basically a tight end. I don't know, less than what he would otherwise be worth. And they also went and got Mike White on a 2-year, $16 million deal. Now, that second pickup is kind of interesting because you got Tua, who they believe to be the future of their organization. But paying your backup quarterback 2 years, $16 million, that's a lot of money for a backup. Unless there's some kind of lack of trust in that starting quarterback, and based off of last year, can certainly understand there may be times when Mike White is going to have to step in and lead that organization. And so getting him on the roster, I think, is certainly an upgrade to the backup situation because I think they had like Skylar Moore or Skylar Thompson as a backup quarterback. Wasn't a good look down in Miami. But getting Jalen is going to be a pretty big deal. Is he still the Jalen that he was, 2 years ago? Probably not. But still going to be a solid quarterback? Absolutely. I wouldn't go targeting him if I were the quarterback of the opposing team. So that might say something. But Mike White and Jalen Ramsey have found their way to Miami. Also, moving away from their home teams, Jarrett Stidham has gone from the Raiders to the Denver Broncos. Why? Because the Raiders signed Jimmy G, Mr. I win at 700%. He is the new quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders, which means Stidham really didn't have any future as the starter. He certainly doesn't have the future as a starter in Denver either, with Russell Wilson being the guy there, well, at least based on the money that they're paying him. But he definitely has more of a prospect of seeing some time than, well, I mean, that also depends on if Garoppolo cannot be hurt. But I just think that Stidham probably thought he had a shot at the starting gig, and when Jimmy G came in, that shot went out the window, so he decided to go for the money. So again, Jarrett Stidham is picked up by the Denver Broncos, and then also Denver has landed Samaje Perine. I mentioned him earlier in the show. They picked him up from Cincy, and that is one of the areas that, again, my loose watching of the Denver Broncos, where they were not very good, is getting someone to run the ball, getting them more than 2 yards per carry. So Samaje Perine, being 27 years old, should certainly be an asset to that Denver Broncos team. Also in the news, the Raiders picked up Jacoby Myers, so giving Jimmy G someone to throw the ball to, a former Patriot to former Patriot connection. But in the process, they sent Darren Waller to the Giants. What are they doing? Darren Waller is I don't know, he's certainly top 5 tight ends right now in the league. And you send him to the Giants for basically nothing. I don't know who's running that organization, but I would have been looking for a little bit more than what I got from the Giants in return for someone who is essentially the second best wide receiver on most people's team. And he's big and can block. I don't know. I don't feel the love on that move, but you know what? I'm sure the Giants are loving it. They're giving Danny Dimes someone to throw the ball to. They got Saquon. Hey, the Giants want to get back to the playoffs again. Also in the league, Taylor Heineke has moved his way from the Washington football team, Commanders, down to Atlanta, where the players play, and they ride on them things like every day. Look, Taylor was out here trying to put on the chains like Kirk Cousins was. He rocks the Jordans. He's gonna fit right in Atlanta. But him and Ritter are going to have an issue with who's going to be starting at the beginning of next season. I don't know if either one of them are going to be a top 15 quarterback. Probably not. But they will definitely be battling for who's going to be the starter down in Atlanta. And Atlanta has some money to play with this offseason, so you may see some additional moves from the Atlanta Falcons as well. And the last thing we're going to run off for today's show, which is probably the least exciting note to end on, is the Carolina Panthers no longer have Sam Darnold because they're going after the number 1 pick, which is definitely going to be a quarterback, either CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, one of those two. But they sent Sam Darnold over to San Francisco. Now, I don't know what that really means for San Francisco. Hopefully Trey Young is back and he's going to be the starter for that organization, and Sam Darnold will just be there in a backup capacity. But you saw what happened to them. They got down 3 quarterbacks last year. So they should probably invest in someone like Sam Darnold, who has seemed to be fairly stable in his NFL career. Not great, not awful, just somewhere in the middle. All right, guys, that is the rundown for today. There's so much more that happened around the league. Through the North, there's a lot of lesser named players that we didn't really touch on today. There's certainly some more players that have happened in the free agency market around the league. But this was just some of the topics that I wanted to cover with you guys going into Wednesday the 15th. Again, we're still on Aaron Rodgers' watch, so I'm sure coming up here soon, we'll hear all about how he signed with the Jets and what the Green Bay Packers are going to try to do in free agency. But until that point, I'm going to leave you guys with this. We may upload an additional episode this week, depending on how much more stuff happens going into the weekend. If we don't, I'll see you next week on Tuesday night going into Wednesday. And as always, if you're coming with me, make sure your bags are packed because we are headed north. This is Headed North Podcast, and I'm out. Peace. You talking about football?
Yeah, Upper Town, NFC, North. The Let's Talk